He's known for the art of the deal, but returning to the White House after his trip to Europe, US President Donald Trump was uncharacteristically tight-lipped about how talks were going. After 3 days, the tariffs Trump had threatened were now indefinitely suspended.
People crossing into the U.S. to seek asylum will be rapidly returned to Mexico, while their applications for asylum are processed. In turn, Mexico will allow these individuals to enter for humanitarian reasons, in compliance with its international obligations.
Mexico will take unprecedented steps to increase enforcement to curb irregular migration, to include the deployment of its National Guard throughout Mexico, giving priority to its southern border.
On that border, with Guatemala, checks are being stepped up. While these measures were enough to avoid the tariffs, the details are not yet finalised. The United States and Mexico have agreed to continue their discussions and announce the final conditions in the next 90 days.
For more on this story, I'm joined by Luisi Pedrosa. She's a research fellow at the Giga Institute for Latin American Studies. Luisi, thanks so much for coming in. So the dispute between the US and Mexico seems to be settled down for now. Where does this leave the two countries?
This leaves the two countries, I would say, not in a better position than they were 2 weeks ago when this trade threat started. The two countries have managed, in a way, to save face. But it's really not in a better position. Mexico has avoided the shame of accepting to become a third safe country and has also managed to squeeze in its plan for an integral development plan for Central America with no commitment from the US as to the amount of money that the US is ready to invest. And the US has managed to press Mexico to enforce and militarize the southern border.
So, you know, not better off than they were perhaps 2 weeks ago, but what options does Mexico have to address this issue and try and not reignite these tensions between the two countries?
The options, I would say, in the short term are very clear. It has to apply the measures that it has promised to with regard to the deployment of the National Guard, but in the midterm, I think that the options are to establish alliances with other actors to try to be less dependent on the US economy so that these threats are less harmful for Mexico in the future.
And under that deal, Mexico has agreed to deploy an extra 6,000 troops to its border with Guatemala. What effect would that have on the migration issue and the flow of migrants?
One has to consider that the economies of Mexico in the south and Guatemala are quite well integrated to a degree that Guatemalan workers come over to Mexico to work there. So this is, first of all, going to make life very difficult for those people who depend on that trans-border livelihood. And I don't think that it's going to stop the flow of migrants in the long term because the problems that cause migration in the northern triangle of Central America are not yet addressed. That's Mexico's plan, but we will see if it gets implemented.
Yeah, I wanted to pick up on that. What are the problems that are driving people to migrate through Mexico into the US?
The problems are connected to political instability, to very corrupt governments in Honduras, in Guatemala, to instability in El Salvador, to widespread criminality and violence that threatens young boys and young men and pushes them to emigrate as the only way to save their lives. These are very deep-seated problems.
And without solving those problems, they're not going away. Are these issues likely to be resolved by these measures that Mexico is putting in?
No, absolutely not. It will only make migration more difficult. It will increase the costs of migration. It will increase the cost of the smuggling industry of migrants. If it doesn't address the root causes of migration that are very connected to political and economic issues in Central America, it's not going to stop migration in the long term.
Luisi Pedrosa, research fellow at the Giga Institute for Latin American Studies here in Germany. Thank you very much.
Thank you.